Today we're looking at the 2014 Jeep Grand Cherokee Eco Diesel. That's right, under the hood is a 3-liter direct injection turbocharged V6 diesel engine with 420 foot-pounds of torque. This vehicle is a premium mid-size SUV brought out to compete with the Touareg from Volkswagen, the ML from Mercedes, the X5 from BMW, and Audi products as well. And it's not cheap. It starts at $55,000. That's to get the Overland version with the Eco Diesel. This top version is the Summit, and it starts at $62,000. Not a bad looking rig either. They've got a new front end on the 2014s, whether it's the diesel or not, a thinner grille, more of an inlay here, and they're able to change that depending on which trim you get. For example, the SRT has a much more aggressive looking grille. You'll notice they all have the LED marker lights here, and it really looks much sharper when you compare it to the previous version. They updated the back marginally as well. The nice thing, whether you're getting the Overland diesel or the Summit diesel, they both come with 20-inch alloy wheels on the outside. Now inside, Jeep has done a fantastic job of making this a premium offering. Okay, when you start this Eco Diesel, there is a bit of noise. Now when you're outside, it's really quite loud. And it is a bit loud in here initially, but a couple of things you want to keep in mind. Usually you've got the radio on in the background, and you're driving along, and then there's wind and road noise as well. But just be aware that this engine is not as quiet as some of the competition. For example, like the Touareg from Volkswagen and the X5 and so on. But boy, does it have a lot going for it. First and foremost, as I mentioned, it's a 3-liter direct injection turbocharged V6 engine with 420 foot-pounds of torque. Now on the horsepower front, only 240 horsepower, but torque is king. That gets you from traffic light to traffic light without any problem at all. And when you accelerate out of the pocket, boy, this thing has a lot of grunt. And that really is fantastic. So what you get with the diesel engine is you get superb torque for in-city use. But also when you're cruising on the highway, this has an 8-speed automatic transmission. You're going along at 100 kilometers an hour, and the engine is just lugging over at 1,200 RPM. And it can sip fuel. I notice in the city it uses more fuel, obviously, but on the highway, the fuel economy just gets better and better and better the more you drive it. And if you have an eye to driving efficiently, you can get some fantastic numbers. Mixed city and highway driving, I'm getting 12 liters per 100K, but I think the more I drove it, the better it would get. Now to this air suspension for a moment. Now Jeep is definitely recognized as a fantastic off-road capable vehicle, but the reality is most people are going to buy this premium truck and they're going to drive it in the city like everybody else does. Now, if you do need it for going to the cottage or skiing or what have you, it has a suspension that can raise up and lower down. It goes into aero mode on the highway to make it more fuel efficient. It has all kinds of different settings. But the one thing it does do in city conditions is it feels like you're kind of floating along, and it's a bit like North American vehicles of years ago. I prefer to have just a conventional spring shock setup and more connected feel to the road, save some money. But if you really do go off-roading once in a while, the air suspension competes with vehicles like Range Rover, and that's pretty heady competition. I think more people are going to be interested in the towing capacity of this Eco Diesel more than the air suspension that is optional. This vehicle can tow 7,200 pounds with this 3-liter Eco Diesel engine, which is the same as the 5.7-liter Hemi V8 that's also offered in this product. The great thing about being in this business, you get to run into all kinds of different people. I have spoken to Klaus Busa. He's the head of Chrysler's interior design, and he sat in this vehicle when it first was introduced at the Detroit Auto Show a year ago. And we went through the interior, and he highlighted what they're trying to achieve with the Jeep Grand Cherokee and why he believes it is good as anything else that's in the marketplace. You've got a leather upper dash. Now, a lot of companies don't do that. It's stitched as well. He's got sort of the copper tones around the center cluster here. He says that this is to mimic things like sand on the beach, earth tones, and nobody else is really doing that. You've got the open grain wood on the front of the dash, and it's a very pleasant interior. New switches on the steering wheel that control not only the new Uconnect system, but also a 7-inch screen that's in the center of the cluster here. Now let's get into the Uconnect for a second. 8.4-inch, one of the biggest screens on the market, and I'm going on record again as saying that Chrysler has nailed it with this Uconnect system. It's fast. It's simple, it's easy to use, it looks good. So many other manufacturers make it so difficult to use their systems. You get in this and you've got it mastered within 10 minutes. You can jump from one thing to the other very quickly. It's so smooth, it never locks up or bogs down. One spectacular feature is you can say be listening to the radio and then hit the map, and the map has a picture-in-picture, so you have both available to you. It's so simple to pair your phone. It takes 15 seconds tops. Everything is very easy. So they're doing so much right with that Uconnect system. Add that into a very simple cluster below that for the heat. You've got this copper sort of look that I mentioned with the brown seats, heated and cooled seats as well. Now, leather comes standard with the Eco Diesel interiors, whether you get the Overland or the Summit. Now, this shifter is the 8-speed automatic that they use in many vehicles, but I'm not a fan of this particular one. I like the rotary dial they have like in the Ram pickup truck, but this one I have a hard time finding reverse, and sometimes you kind of hit park and you know, it's not like a regular gated shifter, which I kind of prefer. Back seat is big. It's got nice features like heated back seats. It's even got USB connectors for kids to plug in their iPods or iPhones, and then in the back plenty of room for cargo. So this is a big, luxurious, mid-size SUV. It's meant to compete with the German competition. It's up to you to decide whether you think it hits the mark. The Jeep Grand Cherokee, as I mentioned, is not inexpensive. $55,000 to get the Overland version with the Eco Diesel, $62,000 for the Summit. Now $55,000 is right where the Touareg TDI starts. But this really is not quite in the same league as some of the other vehicles. Yes, it's got the air suspension like the Range Rover and so forth, but I don't think people really quite perceive Jeep Grand Cherokee to be on the same level as, say, Mercedes or the X5 from BMW. However, it is a fantastic machine, wonderful looking inside, great Uconnect system. So if you're really interested in a Jeep Grand Cherokee, it is a wonderful product. The Eco Diesel is the one to get if you do a lot of driving, especially highway driving. Once you're on the highway, you don't hear the engine, but it does deliver fantastic economy.